There's a number that determines whether you'll retire comfortably or spend your final decades worried about running out of money. And most people have no idea what it is. They track their income obsessively, comparing salaries with coworkers, negotiating raises, celebrating promotions, but completely ignore the metric that actually matters. Your income is just money passing through your hands. Your net worth is money that stays. The uncomfortable truth is that in 2026, Americans are more confused about their financial standing than ever before. They see headlines about the stock market hitting records, about home values surging, about billionaires getting richer, and they assume that everyone around them must be building wealth too. Then they look at their own accounts and wonder what they're doing wrong, whether they're behind, whether there's still time to catch up. Here's what the actual data shows. The gap between where people think they should be and where they actually are has never been wider. But that gap isn't always bad news. For many people watching this video, the reality is better than they fear. For others, it's a wake-up call that could change the trajectory of their entire financial future. I'm going to break down the median and average net worth for every decade of adult life, from your 20s through your 60s, using the most recent 2026 data available. More importantly, I'm going to give you specific targets to hit and concrete strategies to get there, because knowing where you stand means nothing unless you know what to do about it. Let's start with how net worth actually works, because a lot of people misunderstand this fundamental calculation. Net worth is simply everything you own minus everything you owe. Your assets minus your liabilities. If you have $10,000 in a checking account, $20,000 in a retirement account, but you owe $50,000 in student loans, your net worth is negative $20,000. That's not a moral failing. It's just math. And understanding that math is the first step toward changing it. As of January 2026, the average net worth across all American adults is approximately $620,000. That sounds like a lot until you realize how misleading averages can be. A few extremely wealthy individuals skew that number so dramatically upward that it bears almost no resemblance to what typical people actually have. The median net worth, meaning the exact middle, where half of people have more and half have less, is closer to $193,000. That's a more useful benchmark because it represents the actual center of the distribution, not a number inflated by billionaires. Now let me break this down by age, starting with the decade that sets the foundation for everything that comes after. The median net worth in your 20s is $6,600. That's not a typo. If you're in your 20s and you have more than about $7,000 to your name after subtracting any debts, you're already ahead of half of your peers. The average is significantly higher at around $139,000, but that average is completely skewed by a small minority of young people who inherited wealth, started successful businesses, or had other unusual advantages. For the typical 20-something, net worth is barely positive, often hovering near zero or even negative due to student loans. This might sound discouraging, but it's actually liberating information. It means you're not failing if you don't have substantial wealth in your 20s. It means the median person your age is in the same boat. And it means that small, consistent actions taken now will separate you from that median dramatically by the time you reach your 30s. The target net worth you should be aiming for by age 30 is approximately 1 times your annual salary. This comes from Fidelity's research on retirement readiness, and it serves as a baseline that puts you on track for long-term security. Since the median income for someone around age 30 is roughly $60,000, that means targeting a net worth of around $60,000 by your 30th birthday. That might seem like a significant jump from $6,600, but you have an entire decade to close that gap. Here's how to do it. The first priority in your 20s is avoiding consumer debt. I'm not talking about student loans, which often carry manageable interest rates and represent an investment in your earning potential. I'm talking about credit card debt, buy now, pay later schemes, personal loans for discretionary purchases, any debt with interest rates above 10% that funds consumption rather than investment. This kind of debt creates a compounding effect working against you, eroding your net worth faster than most people realize. Every dollar you owe at 20% interest requires you to earn significantly more than $1 just to break even. The second priority is establishing a savings rate of 15 to 20% of your income. This is the single most powerful predictor of long-term wealth accumulation. It matters more than investment returns, more than income level, more than any other financial metric. Someone earning $50,000 who saves 20% will almost always end up wealthier than someone earning $100,000 who saves 5%. The third priority is increasing your skills and positioning yourself for income growth. Your 20s are the optimal time to experiment. with jobs, with industries, with side hustles, with certifications that increase your market value. I've seen people double their salaries in a single year by learning database management, digital marketing, video production, or trade skills that command premium rates. The skills you develop in your 20s compound, just like interest does, generating returns for the next 4 decades of your career. Now let's move into your 30s, where the median net worth jumps to $23,000. Still modest, but representing meaningful progress. The average climbs to around $326,000. But again, that average is heavily influenced by outliers. For most people in their 30s, net worth is just starting to build. Fidelity recommends having 3 times your salary saved by age 40. If you're earning around $72,000, roughly the median income for workers aged 35 to 44, that means targeting a net worth of approximately $216,000 by your 40th birthday. If you're earning $100,000, adjust that target to $300,000. The 30s are when your financial trajectory becomes much more consequential. The decisions you make in this decade tend to lock in outcomes for the next 30 years. Here's what to focus on. First, eliminate all debt except your mortgage. Your 30s should be your prime earning years, when income growth accelerates and career capital compounds. The last thing you want during this critical period is consumer debt payments dragging on your cash flow and preventing the compounding of your investments. Student loans, car loans, credit cards, clear them out systematically so that by the end of your 30s, the only debt remaining is your mortgage. Second, fight lifestyle inflation with everything you have. This is the decade when lifestyle creep becomes most dangerous. You start earning more money, and suddenly you want a nicer car, a bigger apartment, more expensive vacations. Every raise gets absorbed by upgraded expenses rather than increased savings. The solution is deliberate restraint, treating raises as wealth-building opportunities rather than spending opportunities. When your income increases by 10%, let your lifestyle increase by 3% and invest the difference. Third, build a substantial emergency fund. Your 30s bring responsibilities that your 20s rarely did. Children who need care, homes that need maintenance, parents who may need support. These responsibilities create the potential for unexpected expenses that can derail your financial progress if you're not prepared. A well-stocked emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses, or even 6 to 12 months if you're more conservative, provides the cushion that keeps temporary setbacks from becoming permanent damage. Moving into your 40s, the median net worth rises to approximately $69,000. The average jumps to around $751,000, but that gap between median and average tells an important story. Wealth inequality accelerates dramatically in middle age. Some people have built substantial portfolios, while others have accumulated very little. The target by age 50 is 6 times your annual salary. At the median income of around $72,000 for this age group, that means approximately $432,000. If you're earning $100,000, target $600,000. These aren't arbitrary numbers. They're based on decades of research into what's required for retirement security. The 40s are a varied decade. Some people have teenagers preparing for college. Others are single without dependents. Some are caring for aging parents while simultaneously raising young children. The financial squeeze can be intense, with competing priorities demanding every available dollar. Despite this variation, 3 priorities apply almost universally. First, account for your major expenses with specific plans. Whether it's paying off your mortgage, funding college for your children, or maximizing retirement contributions, you need concrete numbers and timelines rather than vague intentions. If you decide that paying off your mortgage by age 50 is a priority, calculate exactly what that requires: extra payments, refinancing, income increases, expense reductions, and build that into your monthly budget. Second, calculate your actual retirement number. I've discussed this in detail in other videos, but the basic formula involves determining your expected annual expenses in retirement, choosing a withdrawal rate you're comfortable with, typically between 3.5% and 4.5%, and working backward to find the total portfolio value you'll need. If you expect to spend $60,000 annually in retirement and plan to withdraw 4% per year, you need approximately $1.5 million. Knowing this number gives you a concrete target to work toward. Third, create an estate plan. If you have dependents who rely on you, children, a spouse, anyone who would be affected by your death or incapacity, you need documents specifying your wishes. A will, healthcare directives, power of attorney. These aren't complicated to create, and templates are available online that you can customize and notarize. The peace of mind they provide is worth the few hours of effort. Your 50s bring a significant jump in median net worth to approximately $180,000. The average exceeds $1.3 million, but that average continues to be skewed by the wealthy minority. The median, the actual middle, reveals that many Americans are entering their 50s with far less than retirement planning experts recommend. Fidelity suggests having 8 times your salary by age 60. At the median income for this age range, around $69,000, that translates to approximately $552,000. If you're earning more, adjust proportionally. 8 times $100,000 equals $800,000. The 50s are where retirement transforms from abstraction to imminent reality. Less than 15 years separate you from traditional retirement age. The decisions you make now have outsized impact on the quality of life you'll experience for the next 3 decades. 3 strategic shifts become critical in this decade. First, diversify your investments and adjust your asset allocation toward stability. A portfolio that's 90% stocks might make sense at 30, but by 55, you need more conservative positioning. The reasoning is simple. You have less time to recover from market downturns, and the sequence of returns you experience in the years immediately before and after retirement can dramatically affect how long your money lasts. This doesn't mean abandoning growth entirely, but it does mean increasing your allocation to bonds, fixed income, and other less volatile assets that provide portfolio ballast. Second, determine exactly what you want your retirement lifestyle to cost. Not a vague sense that you'll spend less, an actual number. Will you travel extensively or stay close to home? Downsize your house or keep the family home? Move somewhere with lower cost of living? Support grandchildren or aging parents? Each of these choices affects your required savings substantially. The more precise your estimate, the more accurate your planning. Third, maximize your retirement account contributions using catch-up provisions. In 2026, the 401k contribution limit is $24,500 for everyone. But workers age 50 and older can contribute an additional $8,000 for a total of $32,500. Those aged 60 through 63 get an even larger catch-up allowance of $11,250, bringing their total potential contribution to $35,750. For IRAs, the base contribution is $7,500, with an additional $1,100 catch-up available for those 50 and older, totaling $8,600. These catch-up contributions exist specifically to help people accelerate their savings in the years immediately preceding retirement. Use them. One important note for 2026. If you earned more than $150,000 in the prior year, your catch-up contributions to employer-sponsored plans must now be made as Roth contributions. This change from Secure 2.0 means those contributions go in after tax, but they'll grow and be withdrawn tax-free in retirement. Plan accordingly. Entering your 60s, the median net worth reaches approximately $275,000. The average climbs to around $1.58 million. This is the wealthiest decade for most Americans, the culmination of 40 years of working, saving, and hopefully watching compound growth do its work. Fidelity's final benchmark suggests having 10 times your salary by age 67, the traditional retirement age. At median income levels, that means approximately $635,000. But I'd encourage you to aim higher, ideally 20 times your annual expenses rather than 10 times your income. Here's why that distinction matters. Most retirement rules of thumb use income as the multiplier, but income and expenses aren't the same thing. Someone earning $100,000 who lives on $60,000 needs to replace $60,000 annually, not $100,000. Using expenses as your baseline produces a more accurate target. If you plan to spend $50,000 annually in retirement, 20 times that amount gives you $1 million, which, withdrawn at 4% annually, produces exactly the $50,000 you need. The good news is that most retirees naturally spend less than they did during working years. Mortgages get paid off, children become financially independent, work-related expenses disappear, savings contributions stop because you're now drawing down rather than building up. The lifestyle that required $80,000 to maintain at 50 might require only $50,000 at 70. The 3 priorities in your 60s are straightforward but critical. First, finalize your retirement. Move from planning to execution. Know exactly how much you'll need, exactly when you'll take Social Security, exactly how you'll structure withdrawals to minimize taxes. The time for estimation is over. You need precise numbers and specific dates. Second, shift your focus toward capital preservation. Your working years are ending, which means you can't replace what you lose. The aggressive growth strategies that made sense at 35 become dangerous at 65. This doesn't mean hiding everything in bonds, but it does mean recognizing that protecting what you have becomes as important as growing it further. Third, pay off your mortgage if you haven't already. If you bought a home in your 30s with a 30-year mortgage, that mortgage should be finishing around now. A paid-off home dramatically reduces your required retirement income and provides housing security, regardless of what happens in financial markets. Now, let me address something that gets overlooked in most net worth discussions: the enormous gap between median and average at every age level. Look at the numbers again. In your 50s, the median is $180,000, while the average is $1.3 million. That means a small number of wealthy households are pulling the average up dramatically. If you compare yourself to the average and feel inadequate, you're measuring yourself against a number inflated by the ultra-wealthy. But there's another way to interpret this gap. It means that above-average wealth building is achievable within a single lifetime. The people who have $1.3 million in their 50s mostly didn't inherit it. They built it through decades of high savings rates, smart investing, and avoiding the consumer debt traps that constrain most Americans. The question isn't whether building substantial wealth is possible. The data proves it is. The question is whether you're willing to adopt the behaviors that make it happen. Let me give you a framework for thinking about where you should actually be, not compared to the median, but compared to your own potential. If you're below the median net worth for your age and you earn an average income, you're not in crisis, but you need to increase your savings rate and eliminate high-interest debt immediately. The gap is closable if you start now. If you're at or near the median, but you earn significantly above median income, you're underperforming relative to your potential. You're likely suffering from lifestyle inflation, earning more but spending proportionally more, leaving your savings rate unchanged. The fix is aggressive lifestyle adjustment to bring spending in line with what someone earning less would spend. If you're above the median but below the Fidelity benchmarks, you're on a reasonable track, but not quite where you need to be for comfortable retirement. Increasing your savings rate by even a few percentage points and capturing your full employer match can close this gap. If you're meeting or exceeding the Fidelity benchmarks for your age, you're on track. Don't get complacent. Continue the behaviors that got you here, but recognize that you're ahead of most Americans and have built a foundation for genuine financial security. Here's what actually determines whether you finish ahead or behind over the course of a lifetime. It's not your starting income. It's not getting lucky with investments. It's not the economy or the job market or any of the external factors people like to blame. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend, sustained consistently for decades. Someone who saves 20% of a moderate income will almost always build more wealth than someone who saves 5% of a high income. The math is relentless and inarguable. Your savings rate is the single most controllable variable in your financial life, and it's the one that matters most. The net worth data I've shared in this video represents where Americans actually are. The targets I've provided represent where you need to be for financial security. The gap between those two numbers is your opportunity to make changes now that will compound for years, to adopt behaviors that separate you from the median, to build the foundation for a retirement that doesn't require worry about whether you'll outlive your money. Whether you're in your 20s and just starting, or in your 50s and needing to catch up, the principles are the same. Avoid high-interest debt. Save a meaningful percentage of every dollar you earn. Let compound growth work in your favor rather than against you. And measure your progress against these benchmarks regularly so you know where you stand. The uncomfortable truth about net worth is that it's a lagging indicator. It reflects decisions you made years ago, not decisions you're making today. But that's also the hopeful truth. The decisions you make today will show up in your net worth years from now. Start now, regardless of where you currently stand, and the numbers will take care of themselves.